My name is Benny Wiley. I'm a proud history maker and member of the History Makers Business Advisory Board. I currently am a full-time corporate director and trustee. Over my career, I've had the privilege of serving on the boards of public companies, mutual funds, a health insurer, a hospital, a consumer product advisory board, university boards, and many other organizations. When I entered Howard University many years ago, I didn't even know the field of business existed. I intended to study education because back then women were educators, nurses, or social workers. I was fortunate that my economics professor pulled me aside and asked me if I had ever considered studying business. I did, and I liked it, and I went on to work at IBM for a few years. And then I was fortunate again to be one of 28 women out of 800 admitted to Harvard Business School. I've worked at consulting firms on the cutting edge of social issues, healthcare, housing, education. I've always had a passion for social enterprise even before it had a name. My signature professional experience was building a social enterprise in Boston, the Partnership. For those of you who are not familiar with the Partnership, it was really born out of the racial tension from enforced busing here in the city of Boston when the racial tensions were very visible and difficult. The Partnership's strategy for increasing the representation of people of color in positions of leadership, influence, and power in the city of Boston is to help retain and advance these talented professionals, develop them into leaders so they can become agents of change, both within their work environments and in the communities in which they live. That continues to be the premier organization in New England around diversity in the workplace, having worked with over 300 companies and also having helped advance more than 4,000 professionals of color in their career. Yes, you want to have a diverse board, but everybody needs to understand the operations and the finance. The mentor that has had a profound impact upon me is Frank Jones. Frank was the chair of the search committee that selected me as the CEO of the Partnership, and he was the chair of the board during my early years. Frank literally met with me every week during my first year and coached me. Frank was a graduate of Harvard Business School in 1957. He worked at several companies until he was recruited by the president of MIT, where he ultimately became the first African-American tenured professor there. Frank was also one of the first African-Americans to join corporate boards, and he served on many, but he never forgot why he was there. After 21 years on the board of Cigna, Frank stepped down in protest over the company's slow pace in hiring and promoting people of color. And he offered them a strategy for how they could correct it. Frank is a man of intellect, business acumen, integrity, compassion, and conviction. I feel blessed that I have been mentored by him and that he has been such an important part of my life.
Hello, my name is Earl W. Stafford. My business or entrepreneurial experience began when I was about 8 years old. I recall one Saturday morning that one of the ushers from the church, Miss Ada Mason, talked with my mother, and they decided that I was going to sell hot dogs and sodas on Washington Street on Saturday mornings to help Miss Mason. Begrudgingly, I went, and that experience that summer was soon followed by a job after school in Mr. Georgie's grocery store. It didn't take long at all for me to realize that I really enjoyed this transactional business, and I was inspired by it. After high school, I joined the Air Force in 1967, and during my 20-year career, I was able to earn both an undergraduate degree and an MBA. After leaving the military, I founded a company called UNITECH. UNITECH specialized in creating and developing mission-critical simulation and training systems in support of the military's weapons effects programs.
The name of your company, UNITECH.
At the time, it was UNITECH, Universal Systems and Technology.
Yes.
Known as UNITECh. We took it.
So you went beyond just selling to the U.S. government.
Oh, we sold to the Lockheeds of the world, to Saab in Sweden and other companies like that. And we got recognition as one of the fastest growing companies in the Washington, D.C. area for years. When I sold the company, I think during that year, 2009, the company did north of $150 million.
UNITECH was acquired by Lockheed Martin Aerospace and Defense Company in 2009.
America, in the face of our common dangers, in this winter of our hardship, let us remember these timeless words.
This morning in our series, Road to Inauguration, we meet a man from Virginia who's helping more than 300 people witness history on January 20th. CBS News correspondent Thalia Shuris has the story.
All this comes at a price tag of more than $1.6 million. Organizers say it's well worth it.
We've been called to do this, to serve our brothers and sisters, in fact, we've been called to be our brothers' keepers.
The presidential inauguration, regardless of who it is, whether it's a black person or a white person, it's an extraordinary event. And not everyone has the opportunity to attend. And to make it accessible to those who normally wouldn't have access to a function like that, I think it is just wonderful.
Our final legend tonight is Frank Cooper III. Frank always taps into everyone's innate creativity to build a payoff for the industry.
Hi, I'm Frank Cooper. I'm currently a senior managing director and the chief marketing officer for BlackRock. And for those of you who don't know BlackRock is often referred to as the largest investment management company in the world, with over $9 trillion of assets under management. But what's more important to me than its size is BlackRock's sense of purpose of helping more and more people experience financial well-being. And that's important to me because throughout my career, what I've tried to do was to connect my personal sense of purpose of helping people expand their potential, whether as individuals or as a group, connecting that purpose to the purpose of the companies for which I've worked.
Early in my career, I had the extraordinarily good fortune of working at two of the most iconic music labels in the world, Motown Records and Def Jam Records. And what's interesting about that, they both became iconic, they both shaped culture, they were massive market powers, but they got to that place by taking the polar opposite approach. So you have this interesting comparison of Motown and Def Jam. I mean, Motown, one label, kind of created this aspirational image and brought people into the mainstream that way. And Def Jam created this relatable, authentic image of real people and said you can live outside of the mainstream.
And I've been fortunate here. I've worked for BuzzFeed, which was listed as the most innovative company in the world in 2015. I've worked at PepsiCo, where I managed multi-billion-dollar brands throughout my career.
I've told everyone so far that I definitely don't see myself as a legend. You know, I see myself more as, you know, like Rick Ross. You know, every day I'm hustling, baby. Every day. That's what I do. That's what I do.
I've been incredibly fortunate to receive lots of help from lots of people, ranging from teachers to business partners to friends. But there's one other person that I want to recognize, a person that I feel is unsung, and that is Clarence Avon. Now, Clarence is an entrepreneur, he's a business executive, he's owned record labels, he's advised politicians, he's managed celebrities, he even owned an oil company at one time. Now, Clarence is an extraordinary individual. And throughout my career, at virtually every critical point, Clarence has been there. He's supported me, but most importantly, he's challenged me. He's challenged me to think beyond my self-imposed boundaries. And Clarence, I want you to know that I am forever grateful beyond words for both your mentorship and your friendship.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Iris Cooper, and I am known as Dr. I here in Central Ohio, where I live. I'm originally from Evansville, Indiana, but I've been in Columbus, Ohio most of my life. I went to school in Bloomington, Indiana at Indiana University, and I was included in the History Makers because of my unique role with Glory Foods.
My partners came to me as a banker and said, we want to get into the grocery store market. There's LaChoy for Asian, there's Ortega for Hispanic foods, but there's no soul food in the stores, and we want you to help us do that.
I was the creator of the brand. I was the only female founder, and Glory became a hit, not easily. 2 years of development with technology as well as the branding, and eventually Glory launched, and we sold it in 2010 to satisfy the investors. So in any event, who would be a role model for someone from the baby boom generation that was Black and female? There is no one but Oprah.
Life has dreamed a dream for you. And your goal, your number one job is to figure out what that dream is and align yourself with the dream.
Oprah has lasted through decades of entertainment change. She's been consistent in her presentation, in her values, and she set the mark high for women like me.
Whatever your occupation or job or talent or gift is, you must find a way to serve.
She's the founder of a corporate empire worth over $3 billion.
ActOne is one of the largest staffing companies in the United States.
She's taken on the corporate world.
I'm from a small town, Tarboro, North Carolina. There are 11 children in our family. Our mom and dad ran the family like a business. Dad was the president and mom was the COO.
Often over the course of my career, I've been asked by people, very well-meaning people, how did I grow a business and develop a life that's so full and rich at a global level? The truth of it is I had many role models growing up and throughout my life. My mom was one of my first business role models because I watched her perform the role of a COO so acutely, so lovingly, and so successfully that it would have been a miracle for me not to have succeeded when it comes to being able to manage business at some very detailed levels as well as highly strategic ones. The other thing that's been really good for me over the course of my life is that I've always networked with people who really cared about some of the same things I care about. Now, let me be clear about this. It is easy to network with people who can help you advance your business. It is a blessing to network with people who care about the same things you care about, the same causes you care about.
Now, people call me a boss. I ain't a boss. I like to think of myself more as the person who is the enabler to people growing to their own capacities.
Janice Bryant Howroyd, and she is the founder and CEO of ActOne Group, and she is an amazing minority woman owner here and leader. There's no, I think, better time to have you on, Janice. Janice and I met at the beginning of COVID.
Over the course of this pandemic, COVID-19, and the multiple pandemic season we're living in, with those impacts to finance, to health, and to social justice, many people are questioning themselves about how they've arrived where they are in life. And that naturally leads to who's been in that experience with them. It is such a blessing for me that all of my life I have been surrounded by people who care about social justice and understand that social justice cannot exist without economic justice. This is a pretty big thing for me. So for me, the best role models of my life were the parents who gave life to me. And I am thrilled to pass their lessons forward.
People talk about giving back. For me, it's not giving back because I ain't leaving my community. I'm still a part of it, okay? So I'm giving it forward.
As a leader, I walk into an organization today that's very different than any I've ever worked for. By that I mean I work for America's socially responsible bank, and every day, whether I'm talking to customers or employees or people in the community, I know that we are collectively advancing incredibly important progressive causes. So I get that opportunity each and every day. Working at Amalgamated, we have a conference room called the MLK Room, where we've got huge photos of Coretta Scott King and Martin Luther King and their family, and that's so incredibly inspiring. Next to me is Shirley Chisholm's room.
I am the candidate of the people of America.
But I think if I had to pick one person who has inspired me the most in my adult life, it's been my mother.
Our dreams and decisions and commitment is to change the history of Ethiopia back to how she was hundreds of years ago as a self-sufficient nation. I was the first woman to be appointed to the Senate.
But the most significant thing that's happened in my lifetime is that she started something called Project Mercy, which is a program in Ethiopia that is comprehensive and includes a health sciences college, a hospital, a school with 1,700 kids.
As a result of these educations, these people liberated themselves from illiteracy and they become two literate societies.
Never have I seen anyone who has done as much as Marta and Demi. Totally selfless, without any reason for doing it other than to save all of these kids.
From the time I started my first job, the question that has risen at the dinner table with my parents has been, who have you affected? What has happened? How do you do good? So that's really been the way that my mother and others who I admire have inspired my career.
Travel has the potential to change the world. When we've met people from other cultures, we become ambassadors of their cultures, and they become ambassadors of ours. Hello, my name is Orlando Ashford. I was honored and humbled when I was initially asked to participate in History Makers, and I'm equally as excited to spend some time talking to you in this edition focused on business history makers. I'm really proud of my career. I've worked in corporate America over 30 years, starting when I was 14 years old, programming computers after school for AT&T. I've had a number of internships through high school and through college, which were accelerators into my career. And my career breaks into 3 phases. The first 10 years of my career was focused on consulting, and that was a real strong foundation. The middle part of my career was focused on HR. I worked for companies like Motorola, Coca-Cola, and Marsh & McLennan companies. I had an opportunity to move to Turkey, and I worked for Coca-Cola at the time, and it was the best thing I did for myself, both personally and professionally. The third phase of my career has been focused on business and P&L leadership. I've spent a lot of time helping companies prepare themselves to perform better and perform better through people. Worked for Mercer. I was president of Holland America Line, and currently I serve as executive chairman of Azamara Cruises, as well as on a number of corporate boards. But all of these things wouldn't have been possible without mentorship. When I worked at Motorola, my boss and mentor is a gentleman by the name of Dan Nickel, and he was the one that put the idea in my head that I could progress from being an internal organizational development consultant to pursue being a CHRO, which I did. He took the time to get to know me. He took the time to ask questions about what does it mean to mentor a person of color in a corporate America setting, and we used to talk about it and share information. And he even introduced me to members of the board, diverse and non-diverse members of the board, as a way to accelerate my development. Marsh & McLennan companies, I had a boss that, again, saw some things in me before I saw them in myself. The CEO's name was Brian Dupereau.
Risk management and management are basically the same. You can't distinguish one from the other.
He encouraged me to pursue being a CEO, being a P&L leader. And so I did that. I walked through that door. And when I was making that decision to make the migration from HR to P&L management, there were a few people that I talked to get advice. One was Don Thompson, the former CEO of McDonald's.
It's not about being successful in money. It's not about being successful in who you were seen with. It's about, are you living a life that is a satisfied, happy life?
Bernard Tyson.
We work very hard on the inclusiveness, which is you have a right to be at the table. You have a right to be who you are. you have a right to think the way you think. And the objective here is to celebrate diversity and get all the different perspectives and walks of lives and different ways of looking at issues and challenges.
And the third was Arnold Donald.
The reason we were so successful and able to transform those industries and create huge value, huge billions of dollars of value in ag and in lawn and gardens, a smaller thing, was because I proactively engineered diversity onto the teams.
You have to be learning agile as an individual and create an environment where you can tap into the collective intelligence or the collective genius of a group and create that flexibility so that as things change, as things move, that the organization can adapt.